What is up? I'm Marcel and welcome back to the Modern Filmmaker. In this Davinci Resolve tutorial, we're going to go over how to recreate logos in Davinci Resolve 18. Now, we're going to do some pretty popular logos in this tutorial, but we're also going to go over some of the techniques that you would use to recreate any logo. So let's go ahead and jump on in and get this started. If you like videos like this, go ahead and give this video a like, make sure to subscribe, and let's go ahead and get this started. So the first thing we'll need to do is import our logos. So if I go up to File and then Import Media, I'm in my logo folder here, and I've got a couple I'm going to use. We're going to start with this simple Pepsi logo, the newest Pepsi logo, and then move on to something a little bit more advanced with this original Adidas logo. That has some more complicated shapes, and we'll use some masks to recreate this and do a little bit of animating as well, just to show you guys how to animate these logos once you've recreated them. So go ahead and click Open from there, and then now I'll make a new Fusion composition. By right-clicking in the media pool, go to New Fusion Composition, and we'll name this one Pepsi, and then click Create. I'll drag this into our timeline, and this will make us a new timeline. And the timeline I'm working in is just in 4K, 23,976 frames a second. And then from here, we can right-click on this Fusion composition and go to Open in Fusion page. And the first thing we'll need to do, I'll go ahead and close the spline window, move this over. You can use the click in on the mouse wheel to move around either your node window or your preview window, which I'll show you in a moment. And the first thing we'll need to do is just make a background. The background will pretty much dictate the scale and resolution of our Fusion composition. So if we just make a normal background with the background tool here, and then with that selected, if we click the merge button, it'll just add a merge. And then we can connect our merge to our media out. And then now in our preview window, we'll have a 4K Fusion composition. And I'll click this viewer button just to give us one viewer here to make things a little bit less complicated. And then from here, we can add our logo. Now, I like to work with Fusion and nodes almost like layers. In Fusion, you pretty much use a merge to connect almost everything. And the way it works is with the 2D merge, you have your background, the yellow arrow, and then the foreground, this green arrow or triangle. And the foreground, this will connect to whatever's above it. So anything I put into this green arrow will be layered on top of this black background node that we have here. Pretty simple. Stick with me here. So the first thing I'm going to do is drag in our Pepsi logo. That way we can see what we're recreating as we recreate it. And then with that selected, again, I'll click the merge button, which will connect that to the background of a merge. And then we can connect this merge to our foreground of the merge underneath it. There's a lot of reasons to recreate a logo in Fusion. In this instance with this Pepsi logo, if I click on the media in and then go to our metadata, you can see that this is only 300 by 300. This happens to me all the time. I'm working with a new company and maybe they're just a local business or something like that, and they send me their logo and it's just small. And it's small enough to do some things with, but at this size, 300 by 300, that's pretty much can only be used for like a thumbnail or maybe like a little profile picture. But if you really want to do something extravagant with this, then you would need it in a higher resolution. That way it would come off a little bit sharp, a little bit more crisp. And especially if you wanted to animate it or have more control over the logo in general, you would want to recreate the logo. And I pretty much do this anytime I work with a new client. The first thing they'll do is send me their logo, and then I'll recreate it. That way I can animate it to my liking if they don't already have a logo animation they like to use for their videos. And so one thing I'll do is just rescale this to the size that we want our in logo to be, our recreated logo to be. So with the media in selected, I'll click on the transform button, which will give us a transform node, which will allow us just to scale this up. Really simple. And I'll just scale it all the way up to 5. Now, if you wanted, you could type in something bigger like 6, or even go all the way up to 10, but by default, it just stops at 5. And that's big enough for me, I think. And then from here, I'm just gonna kind of analyze what we're seeing. And so the way I would look at this if I was just a viewer looking at a logo, I would say there's probably 3 things in here. There's this circle, there's this red shape, there's this blue shape, and then there's this white kind of swoop that goes through it. Now, looking through this, thinking I'm going to recreate it in Fusion, really what I'm seeing is 3 things instead of 4. 3 being this white circle, which would be the bottom layer. And then on top of that white circle is this red shape and then this blue shape. And because of the red shape and the blue shape, it kind of makes it seem like there's this separate shape in the middle. But really, if you think about this red shape and blue shape laid on top of this white solid circle, then you only have 3 elements, kind of making up what looks like 4 elements. the border, the red, the blue, and the white in the middle. Let's go ahead and create just our white circular solid shape. So with that in mind, I'll go ahead and click this background to give us a background node. And then I'll click a merge with that selected, and I'll connect this merge to the foreground of the merge underneath. And then now all we see is black because we pretty much just put a black background on top of everything else. And so one thing we can do just right off the bat to make this easier to see as we go about the process, in our merge here, let's relabel this merge with F2. We can label this to our original logo. So that way we can kind of reference to this whole section here as the logo. So with that connected to our logo, we can go to our logo merge, and then under, I'll close this metadata, and then under the blend, we can turn this either partially down to make it kind of opaque, if you will, or we can just turn it all the way down because I don't really need to see this black layer. I really just need to see the shape that we're creating, which we'll still be able to do even with this blend turned down. Just for now, click on this background again, and we'll relabel this background with F2. We'll label it to white circle. Boom. And then we'll go ahead and make a circular mask on top of this. And it's almost the same exact shape as our circle here. All we need to do is size it down just a little bit. And so with our ellipse mask selected, under width, we can turn this down to match the shape of the Pepsi logo circle. And then we can slide this down in height. We could actually make that the exact same numbers. So 0.39, just like the width. Boom. Should give us a perfect circle. Now, if we go back to our logo merge and move the blend back up so we can actually see that layer, it should pretty much go away. You're just seeing this white outline from the circle underneath, the logo underneath. So if I go back to our ellipse and then go maybe 0.40, just to give us a little bit more size. Boom. 0.40 or 0.4. Boom. And then we can just make this white circle actually white because right now it's black. So go to our background node, go to our color, make it white. Bada bing, bada boom. Now if we go back to our logo merge and turn down our blend, we can see that right underneath. And it's just a little bigger than I would like it to be. So maybe if I go back to the ellipse, just if we want to be precise here, I go to 39.5. Let's try that. Or let's go 39.2. That looks good. And then with this bottom one, 0.39.2. But then moving on, I'm going to go ahead and move this blend back down from our logo merge. That way we can see these colors because we'll need to access these colors just as they are in the logo here in a moment. So the first shape we're going to make outside of our white background circle is this red little half circle thing that's going on here. So again, we'll go make a background, and then I can actually go to the color of that background, go to the color picker, and just hold and drag it over the red. Boom. Now we know that this background color is the same exact color as the red in our logo. Then with that selected, we can click the merge, move the merge over, connect it to the foreground of the merge underneath. And then essentially, if I go back to our logo and move the blend up, boom, we have our red laying over everything. So if we return this blend all the way up, you just have that red background over everything. So just keep that in mind as we move forward. So now we'll need to make this red a custom shape, which is this shape that's sitting here. I can use Control and then zoom, hold Control and then zoom to zoom in and out on our preview window. And then I'll click our polygon mask with our background, our red background selected, with the polygon mask to start making this shape here. So I'm just going to click on this corner here, just click, and then I'll click about halfway through this swoop. I'll click, hold, and kind of pull out to bend it. Move it a little bit more on the edge there, and then make another point here at the bottom. Kind of line that up, and then we will make a point here, click and hold and drag out to kind of shape that up a little bit more. I like that. Yes, and then also, just like you can, like I said earlier, you can use the mouse, click it on the mouse wheel to move your node window around. You can also click it on the mouse wheel to move your preview window around. Very nice. So now we'll connect this last dot to our original dot that we made in the polygon, which will pretty much close this circle here. And just to show you guys, I don't want to confuse you guys, but if I go back to our logo node and then move this blend all the way up, you can see that now we're kind of getting there, but the shape is out of whack, so we'll need to shape that up. So if I click on this first dot in our polygon, now if I click on the end of this handle while I hold Control, I can move this bar and handle independently to really get that custom shape we're looking for. Move this down to this corner a little bit more, and then hold Control, move this handle over. That lines up really nice. Then I'll do the same, select this dot down here, hold Control, move this out independently, and then do the same, hold Control, click on this top handle, shape that out to our liking. And we're getting super close already. Now I can just select this last dot here and bend it a little bit more up to kind of complete our shape here. And then I'll do the same with this other handle on the other side, just shaping it out a little bit more. Let's see, I like it about there. I'll move this one independently, hold Control, and move that where we want it. And just to really get anal over here, I'll hold Control and move this one over just a little bit, just to get it kind of perfect there. And that's perfect enough for sure. So let me zoom back out. And now if I were to, I can hold this merge here and drag this out into the preview window to see what we're starting with. Boom, that's what we've made so far. And freehand, that looks spot on. This looks great. Just right off the bat, freehand, we've got this looking exactly like our original logo shape, which is great. This is going to go by really fast. And then we can move on to the Adidas logo, which is a little bit more complicated, but it'll be awesome. And then I'll move this down just to create a little bit more space. And then we'll pretty much do that same thing again to make our blue shape down here. So if I click on the background, make a new background, go ahead and get the color picker, move this over to the blue, and then make a merge, connect this merge to the foreground of our merge underneath. Then with our blue layer selected, we can click the polygon mask again and start creating the shape. So I'm just going to make a dot here at the corner. I like to personally start at the corners. For me, it just works better in my brain. You could technically start wherever you want. The more you do this, the better you'll get at just making these kind of custom random shapes really fast. But I'm just going to click on the corner here, and then let's say I'll actually start this way. I'll click on this one and hold and drag out a little bit, and then I'll click in this corner here. And this won't be perfect at first. It's going to seem kind of messy at first, and then I'll click down here and hold. And I could make another dot here, but let me just close this out for now, because even if we close this out and we can't get this perfect shape, we could make more dots just by easily clicking on the line and making more little control points there. So I'm going to hit Control Z just to get rid of those, because we don't need these yet, I don't think. And we may not need them at all. So with this first one selected, let me hold Control and then shape this to our liking here. Hold Control with this other handle. Shape that up quite a bit. That looks really good. And then this one actually looks pretty close already. So I'm going to leave that like it is and grab this dot back here. Hold Control and slide that up a bit. We can, whoops, went a little too far. Hold Control, slide this up. All right, and then we can move this back down. And then we will grab this handle, move this one down. And then we will shape out this handle on the bottom, which we may need to, we may not need to hold Control for this one at all. Might just need to get it in position. And that looks really good. Let's move it a little bit more this way. And let's select this one and pull this out a little bit more. Nice. And of course, you can get as anal as you want about how perfect it is, but you don't need to get it, you know, spot on. You know, this is, we may have a few little tiny gaps here, but if I were to show this logo to you now, just from merge 3, bring that in the preview window. This is what we've created. That's exactly like the Pepsi logo. Boom. Pepsi logo has been made, which is sick. And then from here, what I would do if I were to use this logo, I would just go ahead and grab our logo with the transform and the merge, and you just go ahead and delete that, reconnect this to our background. Whoops. And then now if I preview our media out, boom, we have our logo, and we have full control over the blue shape here. We have full control over the red shape, and we also have the white background in the back, just this white circle. And to make this black background transparent, if we just wanted to throw this logo over, you know, some kind of background of our own, we just go to the alpha in the color of the black. And when this is black, you can only do this while this is black. Move the alpha all the way down, and now the background's disappeared. And we can pretty much use this for anything that we need. Now we have the fusion composition with our logo. And so let's move on to something a little bit more complicated, which would be the Adidas logo. And we'll think about this as if we want to animate it as we create it. Because there's a few things you'll want to do. If you plan to animate it, you'll kind of want to think about as you go along, just to make it easier for yourself. So if I go ahead and make another new fusion composition, I'll right click, new fusion composition, and we'll label this Adidas. And then we'll bring this into our timeline. Boom, right click, open in Fusion page. And now we're starting off just like we did before. We're gonna add a background to get our scaling and resolution of the overall composition. Merge, connect the merge to the media out. And we'll go back to the background this time, and we'll make this white because I'm actually gonna make a black background. So it'll just be a little bit easier to see. And then we'll drag in our original Adidas logo, connect it to a merge, and then connect those merges to each other. And again, I'll just go ahead and rename this merge with F2 to logo. That way we know what it is. Boom. So we'll be recreating this exactly. So I'll go ahead and go to the transform, make a transform after our logo, just like that, and then scale this up just a little, not too big, maybe I'll probably go 1.5. That's good enough. That'll be plenty sharp once it's done. And then from here, we'll start recreating these 3 leaf shapes. That's kind of where I'm going to start here. So if I make another background that's black, and then hit merge, connect it to another merge, and then move onto the foreground. And you see how this is kind of like working with layers? Because when you stack the merges like this, it's a lot like layers, just like in a program where, you know, layer 1 sits on top of layer 2 or layer 3 or layer 4. This works the exact same way and really helps you kind of keep track of where things are in the stack. A little bit easier than if you just have merges all over the place. When you line them up like this, it makes it really simple. One thing that makes that easier, which I've said this in other videos, if you right click on the background, you can go to line up, all tools to grid, which these are already lined up to the grid, but if they weren't, that would put them straight on the grid. And you can right click, go to arrange tools, and then go to grid. And with that checked, it'll stay on the grid. That way it's not kind of free floating in there, because that can get pretty messy. So again, with our black background on top of everything, I'm going to go to our logo merge, go to the blend, and move this down so we can see the shapes that we're making, so we can trace these shapes. So with our black background, I'll label this actually to leaf. I'm just going to make this leaf middle. And then with that leaf middle background selected, I'll click on the polygon, mask, and then I'll just make a dot at the top of this leaf. I'll make a dot kind of where it gets the widest, probably about right here. Make a dot and hold to bend that. Then make a dot at the bottom and come over to this side where it's the widest and hold, click and hold to bend it. And then close off our mask here. And then again, we'll come up here to the top, hold control, click this handle, and boom, make our custom shape there. Do the same thing with this other side. Make our custom shape here. And then go to the bottom, select this one. And then again, I'll zoom in just so we can see a little better. make our custom shape here. Let me move this down. It's not quite lined up perfectly. Hold control. I wonder how many times I'll say hold control in this tutorial. If any of you guys count, feel free to let me know in the comments, but I'm sure you have better things to do. So hold control again, and boom. That is pretty spot on. We may be able to, let's see, get a little closer. Of course, again, I'm a perfectionist. You don't have to be, but it's just in my blood. It's in my bones. I like to see things spot on. So let's get about to there. About here. Boom. That looks good. Definitely good enough. And then one thing we're going to do, knowing that we're going to animate this, is throw a transform after this background that we've named leaf middle. We'll throw a click this, click the transform, and it'll put a transform in between that and the merge. And then one thing we'll do, because I want this leaf, I know right now that I want this leaf to kind of grow up, like whoop. So from the bottom, kind of grow up. So if it just starts with a white background, you'll just see this first leaf just whoop, kind of grow out of the bottom. So for that to be possible, we'll need to move the pivot of the transform to the bottom of this leaf here. So if I go to the pivot and just move it down, down, down until we get to the very bottom corner, boom, spot on. And now if, let's say I zoom out, I move this merge up top. If I resize this, it'll grow right from the bottom like a flame, which is sick. Nice. Let's go back and see our whole thing here. And then that's also useful for another thing that we're about to do. Before I move on, I'm going to go ahead and animate this so we don't have to do it later. And if we animate this one now, then that animation, once we copy all this and duplicate it to make these other two leaves, the animation will already be built into these other two leaves as well, which will save us a lot of time because we don't have to remake the animations. Sometimes, you know, depending on the situation, like I said, when I work with a new client, the first thing I'll do is recreate the logo. So a lot of the time when I recreate the logo, I may not have the animation in mind. So I'll have to recreate the logo and then later on just build the animations in. But knowing how I want to animate this from the beginning can really help in the creation process to make sure that you're not duplicating your steps or, you know, having to redo steps later on. Because if I just made the logo, then I'd have to animate the first leaf, then animate the second leaf, then animate the third leaf, and then you see where this is going. So for now, I'll just go ahead and go into the spline editor. I'm going to come back to frame 0, make a keyframe in the size of our transform 2, and then go, let's say, to 15, make another keyframe there, boom. And then I'll go back to our first keyframe and go to 0. And so, again, we've got our blend here in our first merge. So you can't see really what I'm working with. But if I were to pull this onto the screen and then play, boom, nice. Now we can click this zoom to fit in the spline editor. And this is our animation here. Boom. To make that a little smoother, we can click on this second, the end of the animation, hit S, and it'll give this a little ease. And then we can hold Alt, grab this handle, and pull to the left to give it a good, nice feeling ease. We're just a lot like a flame. Looks pretty good. So now we know that that one is like that. Love it. So we'll go back to our whole media out. And again, our merge, our logo merge, has everything above the logo hidden at the moment. But if I were to move the blend back up, then you could see this leaf is sitting on top of our logo. Boom. Just keep that in mind and just know that that's there. Have that peace of mind. And then we can select all of this, hit Control, hit off of it, hit Control V, and drag that and connect our new merge to our last merge. And then now we pretty much have a leaf sitting on top of another leaf. But one reason we added the transform, did the animation, set the pivot, is because now we can just move this over, which will be really, really simple. Now I can go to the transform. I can move left, the center position left, get it exactly where this other guy is, right here on this corner. And then if I go back to our logo merge, move this blend up a little bit so you can kind of see, you can see that we've now moved that over. So if I go back to our transform and move it back to where it was at 0.5. So now it's sitting on top of our other leaf. So by putting the pivot there, we can move this over and then rotate it, and it'll rotate on that pivot, which is super nice. It makes it a lot easier because we're already pretty much in line. Now we just need to come back to our original mask and kind of just tighten up exactly where the mask is for that side shape. Boom. Boom. And boom. Love it. So now we have two shapes. We have our center and our left. We can rename this one with F2, leaf left. And one thing I'm going to do real fast is with our transform, our new transform, the original transform was called transform 2, so this one's 2-1. I'm going to click the zoom to fit. If I get rid of this polygon keyframe, I'm going to move these keyframes for the transform over a few frames. That way we'll get the first, if I just drag these in, boom. And if you can't see where I'm going, I want to kind of do like a triplet here, like a whoop, 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 with all three of those little leaves kind of used to make the Adidas logo. So we'll click this media out, move this back on top so we can see what we're working with here. And then pretty much copy those steps. Let's get rid of the spline window. I'll grab this leaf left, Control C to copy, click off, Control V to paste, connect our merges, and then pretty much do that same thing. With our transform, now, especially because of the pivot, we can zoom in, we can move this over right on top of the other one, and then use our angle just to slide it right on top. Pretty much have a perfect shape here. Love that. That's really nice. And then as you can imagine, this one's going to animate with that other one. But we can go back to the spline window. We can deselect our last transform, make sure that our newest transform, which would be the transform 2_1_1, take this one, select these keyframes, and then move them about 5 frames over. And then boom, boom, boom. Nice. Maybe a couple frames back. Boom, boom, boom. Nice. Maybe just a couple more frames back. Yeah, that's nice. And if we just take a look at that by itself, we now have nice. It looks like a flower, like budding. That is sick. I don't know if Adidas has ever used an animation like this for its logo, but it should. It definitely should because it's nasty. And then the last thing we'll need to make before we go into the text is these lines that go through. And that's actually really, really simple. So we pretty much have, let's say, our logo right here. Our recreated logo is all right here so far. I'll need to make a rectangle mask because we can pretty much make a mask over this merge and everything above it, being this leaf, the left leaf, and the right leaf, which we can actually rename the right leaf to leaf right. And so with nothing selected, I'm just going to go ahead and click on this rectangle. And then we'll connect this to the merge to mask. And then here, one thing we'll need to do, because initially it will apply this mask. Well, first thing I'll need to do is click invert. And then you notice that the two side leaves have gone away. And if we want this merge, right now it's pretty much only affecting what's above this merge. To affect what's on the background of this merge, plus everything in the foreground of this merge, we'll need to go into the merge, click settings, and then go to multiply by mask. And now it'll apply this mask to everything on this merge, plus everything above it. And then we'll go to our rectangle, and we'll go to the height, and we'll just shrink it down to be the exact size of these lines. Height about here, move down a little bit more. Height. Boom. That looks good. I'll make it a little less wide as well, maybe about here. And then what I'll do is go ahead and animate this mask as well, because I want this to boom, boom, boom with the leaves, And then right as that last one comes out, I want this to slide in, because I want this one to slide in, then I'm gonna have a second one, then a third one. So it'll be like a double triplet animation, like a boom, 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 and then shoo, shoo, shoo kind of thing. Stick with me here. So with that in mind, I'll have this rectangle selected. I'll go ahead and go to keyframe 20. That's where I want to start it. And I'll make a keyframe in the position, the center, and then go over to, let's say, just 10 frames later, make another keyframe, go back to our original keyframe, and slide this out. Then we can go to our spline window, click off our last transform, make sure our rectangle is the only thing selected. Click on this last keyframe, hit S, and then hold Alt to ease that a little bit more to the left. The reason you hold Alt is because if you hold Alt and move horizontally, it'll only move horizontally. If you hold Alt and move up and down, it'll only move up and down and not horizontally, which is really, really helpful when you're trying to make a smooth animation. So again, hold Alt, drag that out, make that ease a little bit more, and that's maybe a little too fast. Let me grab this last keyframe, move it to the right a little bit. Yeah, that's nice. And if we just look at the animation, let me just drag this in. This is what we have. Nice, very nice. So again, what we can do is kind of the same concept we did with the leaves and copy this, because we've already made the animation. We've already made the exact shape that we need for this logo and size. So Control C to copy, Control V to paste. Let's go ahead and drag our media out back to the preview window so we can see the logo, and we can line up this bottom one. So one thing when it comes to these masks that can kind of be complicated, if you want multiple masks to run into this merge, I'll need to connect this mask to the mask of the other mask, and then click back on our first rectangle, and then now we have this paint mode. If I disconnect this last mask, the paint mode goes away. So it only happens when you have a mask connected to another mask. And so under paint mode, I'll just need to click this drop down and go to multiply, and now we'll be able to see both of them. So now I can actually click on this rectangle. I'll actually want to grab all of this, because what you're seeing right here is the animation plus the shape itself. I can actually grab all of this, and then let's zoom in a little bit. I can just move all of this down like this. Nice. And then we can do the same thing. Control C, Control V, another one that's copied over. Grab the rectangle, connect it to the mask, go to this mask under paint mode, because now it has the paint mode option. Click multiply, go back to our original mask, or the one we just created. Select the mask plus the animation, drag it all down. And now we've just dragged our animation plus the shape down. And if I let's just go ahead and get rid of this logo. Right now, this logo is pretty much gone. Let's just reconnect everything that we've made in this section. We're just going to connect that straight to our background, and it looks just like the Adidas logo, but with this cool animation. So sick. One thing I would do, just because it's just the way I like to do things, I would stagger these animations slightly. So under the spline window or spline editor, get rid of rectangle 1 and rectangle 3, and all we should have is this rectangle 2. If I grab all of this, I can move this over a little bit, and then deselect that, go to rectangle 3, grab this, whoops, grab this, and then move this over even further, say about there. Now we should have a staggered. Nice. And then lastly, we'll need to make the text. And my best advice for recreating text from a logo is to go to Google, to type in like Adidas logo text or Adidas font, and you can usually find the font. You guys know the internet. You can find almost everything on the internet. And there's a reason why I would do that over any other way to recreate the text. Because if we use an actual text plus, which I just input, and then connect this with a merge, like we do, connect it to our last merge, and then make this black so we can see it, and type in Adidas. So we'll need to move this down. I already got the font for Adidas, which is ITC Avant, and then we can scale this up. And I would use a text because we have so much more control over the animation when we have it in a text plus. So now if I wanted, let's say, all these three things to pop out, do their thing, and then let's say from here, I want the text to flip from sideways. So let's say I would come to the transform, go to rotation, and I can move the text independently. Each character will kind of flip sideways. So what I'll do is just go to the Y position and minus 90 degrees. Hit the keyframe, come up to, let's say, 45, and then go 0. It'll make a new keyframe, and now this will pan out like that. One last thing I'll do is go ahead and click on that. Let me get rid of all this other stuff. Just with the text only keyframes, zoom to fit so we can see. With this last keyframe selected, hit S, hold Alt, drag this out, and we should get a nice smooth. I can make that a little longer. Maybe I'll move the beginning back to 30 and move this out to maybe 50. And then one last thing I'll do is animate the opacity. That way we can't really see it at first. So I'll go to the last keyframe, go to the shading, and then our opacity under properties of the text. Make a keyframe, go back to frame 30 where the animation starts, make another keyframe, and then turn this all the way down to 0. Nice. And then we can also, ease that as well by clicking on the last keyframe there, hit S, and then hold Alt, pull this out. Nice. That looks pretty freaking sick. And that is how you recreate a logo and animate it. If you guys enjoyed this video, definitely feel free to go down there and click the like button. I mean, I don't know how it'd make you feel, but it would make me feel pretty. And of course, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, leave them in the comment section down below. I try to always reply. And if you like videos on Davinci Resolve, make sure to subscribe. And as always, guys, I'm Marcel. This has been the Modern Filmmaker. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.